Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SourceForge podcast. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Beau Hamilton, senior editor and multimedia producer here at SourceForge, the world's most visited software comparison site where B2B software buyers compare and find business software solutions. Today's guest is a pioneer in democratizing blockchain access for businesses worldwide. He's the co-founder of HollaEx, an open source white label crypto exchange platform that empowers businesses to launch their own digital asset marketplaces quickly and affordably. Whether it's tokenizing assets, building a branded trading interface, or managing wallets and users, HollaEx handles a lot of the heavy technical lifting so companies can really focus on what matters, which in a lot of cases is growth. They're really all about bringing crypto infrastructure to the masses, everyone from fintech startups to enterprise platforms, all without the need for a team of blockchain developers. So without further ado, let me introduce Ali Beck, co-founder of HollaEx. Ali, welcome to the podcast. Glad you could join us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Ali, you're the first crypto founder on the SourceForge podcast, so that's pretty exciting.
Oh wow!
Glad to have you here.
That's awesome. Yeah, glad to be the first.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that said, how did you get started in this industry in the first place? What was sort of the starting point for you?
I back in 2014, I did my master in computer science, and I figured this interesting technology with Bitcoin, and I was working on the private key management of Bitcoin on elliptic curve, something very technical. And at the same time, I was the co-organizer of Seoul Bitcoin meetup in South Korea, where we basically built a community for people that were interested about Bitcoin and blockchain technology. That's just kind of like how I got to, connect with people and bring my tech side and connect it with, the business side of thing, where I kind of saw like different people, coming to the community, to the meetup, and this whole Bitcoin technology was not just about the tech side, and it had like a lot of different aspects with regards to the financial side of this, the economy, and it from a business standpoint, like it kind of opened a lot of different opportunities. So just connecting the pieces, I with my co-founder Adrian, we basically started figuring out how we can use our technical expertise in the space and provide solutions for businesses and for people, and make it like simpler for people to access. Initially, things were kind of like educational, just helping people to understand how Bitcoin works, like what's blockchain technology and things like that. And then gradually we started building tools, and things kind of took off from there.
Interesting. Okay, so what was like the rough timeline for all that? Like when you got started to when HollaEx started and where it's at now? How long have you guys been operating, and how long have you been in the industry?
So things kind of, I've been in this space for nearly more than 10 years now. And, when we really saw the opportunity, we started building apps for, as a wallet for transferring Bitcoin and things like that back in the day. And just kind of like, going through difficulties of like, how to use Bitcoin, dealing with people, explaining it to people, like, what is this whole technology? Like, what's Bitcoin? What do I use this for? Originally it's kind of ironic, but like we were kind of thinking like, Bitcoin is going to be the payment thing. So like people are going to use this as a payment tool where we can, transfer value. And then, in our community, we started, an app, and then we built an app that would allow people to transfer value using Bitcoin very easily. Just going through that experience, dealing with the whole use case and what actually the industry wants, we felt that there is a huge gap for businesses to essentially use the technology well when they actually have difficulties developing tools around that. And it's just kind of like one of those things that people would come to us and then they're like, I have this idea. I've got like, I can build something on top of this whole, Bitcoin, and then later on like blockchain and all these other cryptocurrencies, digital assets. And it was kind of very challenging for a lot of them to, actually materialize these ideas and be actually able to execute. And that was the time that we kind of realized, like, why don't we build tools, a suite of different technologies that's available in the as a blockchain suite, as a blockchain kit, and then be able to like provide that for these businesses and sort of solve like this problem from a foundational perspective. Because a lot of businesses, they've got like an idea, they try to like hire developers and then build like their ideas. This is like how typically things work. But when it comes to this industry, things are a little bit more challenging, because like with Web3, essentially you have to have certain type of like developers. You have to have like a different mindset when it comes to actual development, and that was something that was missing like for a lot of these businesses. And it would also cost them a lot of money to just build like simple tools, simple APIs and things like that. So we kind of saw that gap, and then we realized, like, if we people don't have to reinvent the wheel. Not everybody has to like just build things from scratch, like connect things to like these blockchain, run a node, like build a wallet from scratch. And these are also like really, really challenging stuff. Like, it's very sensitive. It's financial. Like, you can't, really mess with it. There's no room for mistake. And if basically you build a tool, a very battle tested tool that has all these kind of functionalities, simply, allow people to create a wallet on the blockchain, then be able to like receive receive these tokens and digital assets, be able to transact with them, then trade these assets with other digital assets and be able to like transfer them. It just solves like so many problems. Like, that turned out to be like a very foundational like problem that existed in the space, and not a lot of people were solving that. What we initially had was a very the view in the industry was more towards like providing something for end users, for just retail customers, get them on board, like, so they can actually trade and then buy cryptocurrencies and things like that. That's majority of like exchanges and successful companies in the crypto space that came out. We kind of realized, like, there is a foundational problem. Like, these exchanges constantly get hacked. There are like a lot of problems. People spend like millions of dollars on building these software technologies. We can build tools that would simplify this. We can create a standard around that, and then we can create a very simplified SDK developer tools that are very developer focused mentality that would allow these businesses to be able to build these tools and build these ideas, these different business ideas, without spending a lot of time just reinventing the wheel. So that's how HollaEx was formed and started. We had a very developer focused initially, built tools primarily for developers with an open source mentality. Just make everything like sort of open source, making it available, get a lot of feedback from the community. And then as time went by, like, we realized, like, we can also we can simplify this even further by putting it into a cloud infrastructure, making it easy with like few clicks for people to launch an exchange. And while doing that, they can white label this, so everything is white labeled. They can put their logo, they can customize it, and then they can essentially provide this to their customers. Everything was sort of built in a very modularized way, so it's very customizable, very easy to access, and very easy to play around with. That kind of gave us that kind of flexibility for businesses to be able to build different use cases around it.
Yeah, I think I just really love what you're doing there. I think having the B2B solution, creating the foundation to let other kind of people build their ideas off of and base their ideas off of, I think that's really an interesting niche. And I just want to rephrase this, and maybe you can kind of rehash some of the things you just mentioned. I gave a pretty high level, brief overview of your company in the beginning. Obviously, a lot more could be said, and you mentioned a lot of talking points. But I just want to just reiterate and ask this question: Where does HollaEx fit into the crypto exchange and blockchain integration industry? And in other words, like what niche are you really trying to carve out?
So as you just said, the B2B aspect of it is where we really focus on. Primarily, services in the blockchain space is B2C, meaning like they're just provided for customers, for clients, especially like it used to be very retail oriented. Recently, it's more now institutional, but the B2B access is something that essentially allows. So we kind of like went into another layer, which was kind of missing in the whole spectrum. There were a lot of like companies providing this to like their customers, to random retail users, trade these cryptocurrencies and things like that, which is like majority of exchanges that we know. But where we came in is we're going to give all these tools, give the shovel essentially to all these businesses to be able to build like whatever they want, and be able to create very customizable tools, financial tools on the blockchain, on the cryptocurrencies, on these cryptocurrencies, and provide it to their clients. And that kind of like makes the sky like its limit. Like people can come up with like a lot of different ideas, a lot of different they can brainstorm all these different beautiful ideas that can be built into a blockchain, and now they've got like the tools. So the B2B aspect is where we really focus on.
Yeah, I think that's really neat to see, and I imagine you'll have a bunch of different success stories we can talk about here later on. But I want to focus on the specifically some of the tools and services you offer your clients. So obviously, there's a bunch of different services you offer customers. You have tokenizing assets. You help clients build a branded trading interface and manage wallets and users. Can you talk more about some of these specific tools and services you offer clients?
So yeah, primarily the very first thing that I think everybody needs is having a blockchain cryptocurrency digital asset wallet. That's where things really get started, because you need to have a wallet to be able to do anything pretty much. Once you have a wallet, we basically give them the interface, a white label exchange where they can deposit different tokens, nearly more than 200 different digital assets into these wallets, and be able to trade them across different blockchains. We support majority of like different blockchains like Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, and Ripple, XRP, Stellar, and you name it. And then this kind of like gives them this interoperability to connect to all these different blockchains, all these different tools through one platform. And we sort of simplified it with APIs. So pretty much like everything we do with HollaEx has an API. So as a developer, you just like simply create a wallet. You can create a blockchain address, then deposit assets to it, transfer it to another user, trade it with another asset, and that whole spectrum of tools like is then available. On top of this, we also have a cloud infrastructure, which is, what's been really a lot of like, our focus recently, where we basically put all of these tools, and with a click of a button, you can actually like have a website on your domain live, like within, 10 to 15 minutes. And that website, gives you all the tools, everything from, user management, a wallet management, all the trading, charts, order books, an OTC desk, a P2P module, staking, and all different kind of like, services that is pretty much like, available in the crypto space. Like you have all these modules at your fingertip to play around with. And the whole like flexibility around like what you want to actually, activate, what you want to use, how you want to like display this, like customizations around user interface and experience and things like that gives like this really kind of unique angle to how businesses can utilize like these tools and products.
Yeah. Now I know the industry is getting a little bit less fragmented and a little bit more consolidated, but it's still there's a lot of different integrations that need to happen in order to kind of get a seamless experience. And I think that's especially true with your product here. I imagine it's a big selling point, obviously, because generally speaking, when a product has tight integrations with existing systems, it's all the more enticing. So I'm curious, how does HollaEx ensure really seamless integration with other systems or software platforms that companies might already be using today?
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a lot of ideas actually from WordPress. It's a very well-known software for building websites, and one of the things that they've done really well is this plugin setup, the plugin marketplace that allows developers to pretty much like develop anything on top of the infrastructure. Well, I mean, WordPress is kind of an old software. We had a very modernized approach towards that, but we built this sort of layer where there's a marketplace for plugins where you can develop and add any kind of like integration that you want to the software. A lot of these plugins are actually available on the marketplace. Some of these are like available for free. Some of these are like paid plugins that you can subscribe to, and you can also, on top of that, like, you can build like pretty much anything you want, any kind of like idea, any kind of integrations on top of the exchange solution can be built. One of the good examples, for instance, is a KYC solution, a KYC AML solution for onboarding clients, which is a very common tool. So, like as a cryptocurrency exchange, if you are a regulated licensed platform, you definitely need to like do a KYC on your users, who your customers are, and things like that. We've worked with a number of different KYC solution providers. One of them is Identify in Europe. And the integration pretty much allows you as a business that gets the software, the exchange up and running, can do a very simple integration with a KYC solution provider to onboard the user. So that kind of provides like this very seamless onboarding experience where you don't have to like build all these tools from scratch. You can just like pretty much like use a few APIs, and with a plugin you can connect it with a third-party solution provider. There are a lot of other examples that we also have done a lot of different integrations. And what's really beautiful, as I said, is the fact that these are all done with there are SDKs, tools, and APIs that would allow developers to be able to like get a lot of these code samples and ideas, and be able to like build that. We also put a lot of these like openly out there. We have an active forum, and there are like developer tools and SDKs available that people can kind of like use the existing code and get an idea and build it. The other day we actually were kind of like using ChatGPT to like develop some of these plugins on HollaEx, and it was like really giving a very thorough development. A lot of interesting codes, like pretty much like built in with very simple, few lines of code that would kind of like do all these integrations, which is makes it like really, really easy to use.
That's neat. Yeah, a lot of flexibility there, and I imagine it's one of those things too where you're constantly updating. There's gonna be more integrations, I'm sure, in the future, right?
Definitely, yeah. So there is actually a marketplace. We have a plugin marketplace where we initially we put a lot of effort building a lot of these plugins ourselves, but as time went by, there are other developers, other tech companies that have developed these, put it out there for other exchanges to use, and a lot of these like are premium plugins that people would pay for. For instance, like simple stuff like, for example, you want to have like a chat bot using Crisp or Intercom for like your CRM as an exchange. And then these are like very simple integrations that can be, added to your exchange with like a few lines of code as a plugin. As I was just talking also about this, like one of the interesting ideas that I just, thought about was, we have a client that developed these debit cards, gift cards essentially for, using cryptocurrencies to like buy products. So what they did is, with your balance on the exchange, you can actually like use that to pay for things on your, daily basis. Just like use a simple Visa card that is issued by them, but then it would actually like use your balance on the exchange. So they, did the whole thing with just a simple plugin integration and connected with their own existing system, which was really interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool. Huh. Now, in terms of some of the clients you work with, I know obviously you mentioned the fintech industry, which seems kind of like the most obvious sector you work closely with. But I'm curious, are there any other industries or sectors that might benefit the most from your solutions? And are there any maybe surprise industries, things that you wouldn't necessarily think of that would be compatible?
Absolutely. Yeah. So initially we were kind of like thinking that this is a very niche product. We originally were thinking that this is going to be just a white label exchange for on and off ramp of crypto. So, you put fiat currency in and you buy Bitcoin, vice versa, something like that. As time went by, like all that customization kind of allowed like people to come up with different ideas. And one of the interesting sectors that I've seen a number of different ideas and companies building on top of HollaEx is in the real estate sector, tokenizing real estate assets, RWA, real world assets, basically. So these are industries that pretty much like they've got nothing much really to do with fintech and finance, but with the whole tokenization ability to like create tokens that represent certain value. People in different sectors are kind of like coming up with like ideas to sort of do things differently. So I can just build a platform, tokenize real world assets like a real estate, and there are certain jurisdictions that already have a pretty thorough regulation around this, and they can offer these products to their customers. So this is like a completely traditional like space with tons of regulation. There was like a lot of paperwork, and now a lot of this like can be done with these digital assets and tokens. Another example that was really interesting was like carbon credits. So, how to handle like carbon credits, how to offset these for, businesses. A lot of these was like, done, a very bureaucratic process with a lot of like paperwork involved. But like, we had a client that, built the tool basically for tokenizing carbon credits, and you can basically like offset these, trade these with other people in an open market. And the ability to like create these tokens and then be able to like trade them, this just kind of gives like any business like a new opportunity to like offer things differently. So like as a business, you can kind of be creative, and instead of like traditional like routes to sales and things like that, you can kind of like come up with like ways that you can utilize like digital currencies and then this whole like industry and the tools around it to sort of access a different market niche and a different kind of audience, which is really fascinating when you look at it. Which wasn't actually initially like what we kind of designed the software for, but we sort of saw like how people started utilizing it, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool. I wonder, do you guys have like a web page or something you can see kind of some of the use cases? Because I would love to kind of see some of the things people have created using your platform.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a case study page on the website that kind of like has some information about some of these, some of our clients. One interesting client, notably that I can think of right now, is we have a client in the island of Dominican Republic, where this guy was used to be just an OTC Bitcoin, desk. He had a single ATM that you could like, if you go to like Dominican Republic, you can use his ATM to like cash in, cash out like crypto. He was kind of like doing everything like manually. It was like a very traditional like process, but he basically connected this to the exchange, and then he have like an online. He has this online presence with his business. And that kind of like helped him to grow like instantly, to have to expand his reach with the Bitcoin ATMs. Like he has, I think, more than 20 different ATMs now in the country. And then all of these are like, kind of automated with the software behind the scene. And then it gives him like, the liquidity to be able to like, you know, utilize these ATMs, and also like, a lot of the onboarding. So it used to be like a kind of a very tough process for him, like getting people onboarded, going to like an ATM and all that hassle. But like with the software and with the tool, he basically like automated that entire process, which kind of gives like this idea, like, that uh, a lot of even traditional like businesses, old school like OTC money exchange, for example, like they could kind of modernize the entire their entire operations, because a lot of like these businesses, like, you'd be surprised, they run even on a spreadsheet, and they can like automate that entire process with a financial software like HollaEx. We basically give them it's a very powerful accounting software in a way for all these people. And not only it's an accounting software, but you actually can like do all the settlement, you can do all the transfer, not only like just the numbers, you can have all the history and everything, and have operations around it, and have your people, your team onboarded, and be able to like manage and see all the processes, and create like very custom processes for your need. So that's like something that really makes it like very, very powerful for a lot of these businesses. The fact that like kind of like democratizing like this financial uh, software access, 'cause I think financial softwares are kind of like very restricted. You would only have like banks and a few different institutional players that would like actually have things like that. And now, like, it's very easy to kind of like build things around it, and have access to tools that would like give you kind of this freedom to play around with like money, and then build code around it, and be able to like create processes around that that wasn't really possible before.
Yeah, I like how you just the accounting um, aspect is just, it's just one aspect of your company, and one of the tools you kind of offer, because there's so many technical aspects with this industry and with your product. One thing that I just maybe wonder was like, how is your customer support? I imagine you get a lot of questions and kind of have to address a lot of the maybe technical issues people are having, or just not understanding what exactly is going on. How do you work to address some of those concerns?
So we kind of like have a very community oriented you know mindset. We very early on we built a forum that would basically like not only limit this to us and then us supporting like these clients, but it's kind of like very open. And then one thing that we saw that was really interesting is like a lot of companies in countries that like have greater access to like developers. For example, India with like cheaper uh, you know access to like development labor. They saw this opportunity that they can actually like build this stuff around this and then provide it to like customers. So that kind of like open source aspect, the fact that we kind of like put the code out there, we like try to be as transparent, as open as possible, made it kind of like more of a community oriented software that's basically it takes a lot of like burden of like support and explanation from our shoulder, and it puts it on like a community. And we try to like use some of the tools that would be reusable. So for example, things on forum, all these like questions, like a lot of questions that like repeated, so people have the same kind of like ideas a lot of times, like, and a lot of these are already addressed. So like we just redirect a lot of people to like a lot of these resources that are available, and there are tons of resources available. Like people ask a ton of different questions, we try to like deal with it this way. And that really helped, I think, all that resources and tools that were built. And then later on, with like the access that you have with things like AI now, it has pretty much like all the resources needed online to go through, and then you can easily ask a question, and then you pretty much can find all the answers, which was really beneficial. We didn't even put a lot of time and effort into training AIs and stuff like that, but then just the content that we already had available online, these AIs really picked it up, and then they can answer a lot of people's questions very very quickly and efficiently.
I was going to say, yeah, AI, that kind of came into fruition at the perfect time, because I mean that's a great resource. If you have any questions, just go to your local chatbot, and ask away. But yeah, the community based open kind of aspect and framework, so to speak, is that's always a plus too. So that's interesting. I want to kind of focus on and talk about some of the maybe barriers to entry, right? Because this industry I know has a lot of kind of macro conditions that has to follow. A lot of politics are play a big role here. But politics aside, what would you say is keeping companies from adopting crypto exchange technologies, and what are you doing to sort of help them along?
I think one of the biggest challenges for a lot of businesses has been the fact that it's very hard to build, these tools, which is really the problem that we're addressing. We've had clients spending a lot of money, a lot of resources, and they spend a lot of time trying to build these tools, and then they were not really, they had difficulties achieving their goals. And a lot of these is very time sensitive. So crypto market, it goes up and down. It's very important to introduce the right product at the right time. And all the challenges around delivering the right platform, the timing it's been very very challenging for a lot of customers, which is an area that we really with the tools that we provide, we really simplified that. Few minutes, click of a button, you can get your website up and running. The other challenge I'd say has been the regulatory framework around it for a lot of people, depending on what exactly they're trying to do. Lack of clarity in a lot of different jurisdiction, challenges around how to get the proper licenses and things like that. And there's been a lot of issues around this. So there are companies, we have some partners that we introduce, some firms that would essentially help people doing this, going through different sort of they help them do consultation that help people to kind of find what exactly is the best way to set up their business, and based on their target audience and their product, and also a lot of other kind of tools, just for example the KYC system that I was just talking about earlier. These are the things that we built over time. Day one, we didn't have a built-in KYC solution. We had to put a lot of effort and time, had to partner with other companies, do integrations, so that have this type of integration that people just click a button, install a plugin, and then they've got a system that we spend months and months building, not just from a technical perspective, or all the business development around that, finding the right partner and all that. So it's just a lot of foundational work that we have done, that we share with our clients, that really simplify all of that. Because as a new business, you want to start, it has so many different angles, from the legal side to operations, the tech side. And it's just you would need a really really big team to be able to address a lot of these. So with this sort of very packaged product, the way we provide it, you pretty much have access to a lot of that right off the bat, and then you can really start focusing on what really differentiates your business, what really is it that you actually want to do that is different from other competitors. So yeah, I'd say there are a lot of different areas, and it really depends on businesses, and we're trying to help them on different from different aspects, by basically just connecting them with a lot of other companies and a lot of our partners.
Yeah. I mean, with a product where companies can work with and go so many different directions, there's just a lot of different kind of things to consider. Regulatory clarity, like you mentioned, or lack of clarity. It's a big kind of thing you have to overcome and look into. I guess so. Looking ahead at what's coming down the pipeline in the next, I don't know, 6 to 12 months. I don't want to look too far because I know it's pretty tough to predict what's coming for the industry. But from your perspective, what are some new features, maybe technologies or partnerships that you have coming that clients should be excited about?
So one of the things that we've been actually working on as the software, has been getting more mature, and some of our clients, have more requirements and needs. We kind of like try to address, the issues and challenges like that our customers have. And one of the very interesting feature that is up and coming is a very thorough kind of like system that would have like these permission controls, access controls, and management for like back office of an exchange platform. So a lot of like financial systems uh, basically like having a very complex hierarchical team and operations. You have like people in different organizations, different like departments, and then you want to have like different access. For example, who has access to process how much money in your organization, or who has access to like view certain information or download certain information, or who has access to like allow like this kind of like uh, integration or develop certain features. And a lot of these, like with a financial software, needs to be like kind of logged, be able to like be audited in future. And as an enterprise software, like, and with a as a financial software, we try to like make this like pretty much like log every single record, store every single record, and be able to like give this like very complex like access control that is very like narrowed down to like very little details, that would allow you to like build a very complex structure around like how your company, your business can actually use this exchange. Because with a lot of like things we see, for example, in this space, like a lot of exchanges get hacked. There are a lot of like internal issues, like data information get leaked, like and then there's like very complex sort of view on how to actually manage all of that. And I think for the most part, like software is something that can, the automation is something that is really needed to create a lot of these process flows. Instead of like having humans involved, we can basically like create all these like different roles and different like permissions. And that's been one of the things that we've worked on, and we just we're releasing this new version that would pretty much like give a very interesting access to all of that. One of the other things that we've been working that's very exciting this year, it's like we've been working a lot with how we can automate a lot of like development and a lot of tools with AI, which would allow businesses to be able to like create like a very complicated plugin that would do a lot of like integrations with like few lines of code. Giving a lot of that, as I said, like a lot of these resources were available online, so like kind of like made it easier, like creating models around it and then simplifying it for people to develop this. Because I think with a very white label solution, it's very important that people have this customization aspect, and that's what we kind of like focus on to provide to our clients.
Yeah, I was waiting for the AI mention because I know you mentioned the plugin marketplace and some of the kind of vibe coding output. I guess you've worked with the Chat GPT, right? So that's interesting to hear about. And what kind of do you have a particular release cycle or cadence you follow, or is it just kind of as these updates and features are finished, you kind of roll them out?
Yeah, so we have nearly like a timeline to have like a major release every quarter. So every 3 months, we try to bundle a bunch of features and release them as we go. And in the middle, like there are tons of patches constantly being updated. There's an active repository on GitHub that's actually open publicly, and people can see and view like what exactly is happening. So that's part of like the thing that really differentiates us, I think, from anyone else in the space. Like we're very transparent, we're very open with how we develop features and things, like because I think with this industry, like a lot of people like trying to kind of keep it as a black box, trying to like be very sort of it's not very transparent and public. But I think our approach has been being very open, putting like very clear like release updates, release notes, the code is out there, and then that kind of like gets people to kind of understand like how things are going, where we are with like new features and things like that, and have that kind of like public setup where people can track.
Yeah, I think that open approach is super commendable, and just makes for a more of attractive product for potential clients. So I think that's great, and yeah, I'm just excited to kind of see where your company goes. Now that I kind of have a more comprehensive understanding of all the different moving pieces, I think is really exciting. We're coming down to the last couple of questions I have for you, Ollie. But I want to give you kind of one more opportunity to hammer down maybe a key message for those listening, who are interested in just learning more about the industry or the company, or any warning signs, or whatever it might be. So my question for you is, all leaders, they want to have the opportunity to tell potential customers like one big thing, sort of like shouting it from the rooftop, or if prospects only knew this. What would that one big thing be for you?
I remember this was like maybe 6-7 years ago. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, he actually, somebody asked him about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and he kind of like completely ignored it. And he said like it's just very volatile, and then nobody cares about that. A few years later, like he kind of changed his mind, and then now JP Morgan is like they've been doing like a lot of different institutional work around like Bitcoin and Bitcoin ETFs and cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology, and they changed like that attitude. One of the thing that for me, like as someone that's been in this space like for nearly like more than a decade, uh, I I've seen this resistance for people about the change, and especially when it comes to the financial sector, uh, there is kind of like already a built-in ecosystem, a built-in system that we already have with all the banks and all the things that we've achieved for the last like century. And there is this really big resistance for people like in their head about like the change that is coming with cryptocurrencies and blockchain. And I've been seeing like people kind of like having a different attitude towards it. But what I think is really important, my message is that this technology uh, essentially democratizes how you access money, how you can transfer value, how you can engage with your clients when it comes to money. And not only that, it would also kind of democratizes access to how the entire asset structure works. So it's a very big change, and one of the main thing is having that access uh, within your building something within your business that would connect to this industry so that you can stay relevant. And that's one of the things that I really want to like share with people to not to ignore this. It's like similar to like AI, which is another really important trend that I think all businesses should really watch out for. The change that is coming, especially with some of the changes recently in the regulation within the US, that allows like an easier access to a lot of these within the cryptocurrency, and the sort of competition, global competition for these technologies. It's very important for CEOs, company directors, and leaders not to ignore this technology and think of ways that they can utilize this. And we have absolutely like all the tools that pretty much like give them a very simple start for, built for essentially like businessmen, CEOs to kind of like play around with this. And it's not just limited to financial companies. It can be pretty much like any company, as I said, like carbon credit or a real estate, like doesn't seem really relevant to like fintech or finance at all, can actually benefit from that. And that change is coming down the line. Like, we're going to see a lot of businesses switching to this just simply because it's more efficient. It's just easier and, has less friction. So that's the kind of trend that I see, and I definitely recommend people, watching closely and paying attention to the changes in this industry.
I think that's a great takeaway message. I'm going to be thinking about that well after this podcast. I think, obviously change is scary. Being able to envision what the future is going to look like is not something everyone can do, it seems like, and that's kind of what separates some of those, people who are more successful than others. But and then also you have the kind of, established players being more complacent and resistant to adopt some of this new technology for whatever reason. But I think that's I think that's really optimistic and inspiring, and just makes me start thinking about all the different ways I can, kind of get more involved with this industry. So I appreciate all the insights you shared. Ali, where can listeners go to learn more about HollaEx and just get in touch with you and your team?
So you can check out our website, HollaEx.com, and we have a very simple form, HollaEx.com/start, where you can pretty much like, answer, it's a questionnaire that would kind of like give us like a very good idea of like, how we can actually help you. Then our team will be in touch with you.
All right. Well, hey, thank you again for taking the time to sit down and talk with us about your company. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
All right. That's Ali Beck, co-founder of HollaEx. Thank you all for listening to the SourceForge podcast. I'm your host, Beau Hamilton. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with all of our upcoming B2B software related podcasts. I will talk to you in the next one.